On today's edition of Backstage Pass with Lia Chang, I'll be giving you a sneak peek of KCRep's production of Twelfth Night. I'm so happy to be visiting you in your new home. Kansas City, KCRep, tell me about your new position.
Oh, thank you. We are honored to have you, the legendary Lia Chang, here with us. I'm the new Associate Artistic Director here at KCRep. I've been in my position since October of last year. Part of my job at KCRep is to line produce the season, as well as last year I helped create the KCRep for All free community tour program that is based on the Public's mobile unit and Globe for All. And that was primarily what Artistic Director Stuart Carden charged me with doing. And this year, to kick off the Fall Classic series that we're going to be starting in our programming, I have the good fortune of getting to direct 12th Night. Back in 2011, it was the inaugural production of Leviathan Lab. That was our Asian American theater company that R.L. Estrada started. And then we set it in 1960s Hong Kong. It was very much inspired by Wong Kar-wai's film In the Mood for Love. The music, that sense of romantic longing, felt very apropos and in tune of the time that we were in. And now, a decade later, we're in a totally different time. I called Jason Ma and I said, Jason, do you really think it's time for a romantic comedy? And Jason pointed out that it's a play about grief, it's a play about isolation, it's a play about people who are living alone to a certain extent, whether they're alone in their suffering for love or they're alone in their suffering with their grief. And a lot of those things really resonated for me. And here in Kansas City at KCRep, we haven't done a Shakespeare play in about 9 seasons. So who we're bringing back from 2011, Jojo Gonzalez is Feste, who is fantastic, and Eileen Rivera. This time she's playing Mariah instead of Olivia, and most importantly, Jason Ma, who's a trusted and longtime collaborator of both of us. Jason is an incredible talent, and that production in 2011 was very good, but this is really an all-star loaded cast, wonderful people. Jason is always amazed that they can all sing. Many of them play instruments that I haven't even heard of, right. Which of course Jason spent time with them learning and finding out about what that was. And so we have a Brazilian samba whistle, we have a baldong, we have all of this crazy instrumentation that makes this very unique world. I think one of the things that we were looking for was trying to find a cast that really reflected the diversity. So we have Filipinos, we have Latino actors, both Brazilian and Mexican. We have African American actors. Wow. We also have good old Caucasian actors. We have a handful of those. But what's even more special about that is that Jason has spent time with each individual actor in our pre-pro process, finding out about their ethnic identity and really building the musical worlds of Olivia and Orsino around those things, as well as Feste, giving him more richly Filipino sounds, and we've even subbed in some Tagalog in different parts of the show between him and the other fellow Filipinos on stage. So all of those things I think make for a really diverse mix that feels much like Manhattan, right? If you, as you know, as a New Yorker, it's like you go 2 blocks, you hear one kind of music, and then you walk another 2 blocks and you hear a totally different kind of music, and that feels very much like our Illyria.
And that actually extends to costumes.
Yes, absolutely. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Valerie Therese Bart's costumes. They are built around the ethnic identities of the actors, just like the music. Orsino, as I like to say, is not just an not just Orsino played by a black actor, but it's a black Orsino with swag. His costumes are based very much off of a lot of hip hop, Empire, P. Diddy, all of these sorts of different early 90s R&B stars that is Brandon, who plays our Orsino. Those were his sort of formative musical figures.
Right.
And then, so his costumes reflect that. The colors and the flora and fauna of Olivia's clothing also reflects that. And then Jojo's clothing is literally made from fabrics that the costume shop imported from the Philippines.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
that is really cool. When I saw those fabrics, it like transported me to my childhood.
Oh.
Yeah. So that. But I will say, in terms of my artistic practice, it has led me to reach out and try and find a deeper sense of rigor and discipline, and really have a deep admiration for those whose artistic practices reflect that. Also, one of my core values is service, and my time in the Marine Corps really showed me what that is. And then they have this thing in the Marine Corps called Esprit de Corps, which literally means the spirit of the Corps. Mm-hmm. And that kind of really, the way to translate that into the arts is ensemble and company building. And that part, I think, has always been one of the great joys of making work. And one of the things that makes this particular production special to me is that it's both the old guard of my friends and collaborators and the new.
Right.
And different other people who, like I said, I've gotten to meet along the way. So an example is like our design team is made up of close friends that I went to Yale with, as well as some brand new collaborators, like Fernandez, who's our set designer. Valerie and I never were in school together, but we have been friends for a long time. And so I was really excited to have her join our party. And I think she's done an amazing job constructing the costumes. And I would be remiss if I did not refer to my t-shirt.
Well, actually, that was my next question.
Great.
My next question was, what is it like to be an Asian American artist? What does it feel like to be an Asian American artist, theater maker in this time?
I think that in our city, in New York City, where we're based up until, or at least I was based up until not too recently, it's felt very dangerous to just be an Asian American. Mm-hmm. I feel like Asian American artists at this time are called to speak out about certain things. The last show I just did up at Westport Country Playhouse was Kim's Convenience. And Ins Choi, the playwright and the showrunner and the creator of Kim's, said that basically the best thing that we can do in this time to sort of combat anti-Asian hate crimes is to tell stories to remind people that we are human and our humanity needs to be respected. So in a time like this, I think part of our job is to speak up. I think part of our job is to sing the songs that need to be sung and tell the stories that continue to humanize us and remind people with different experiences and who don't look like us that we are human. And we do that in a lot of subtle ways. One of the ways that we do it in this particular production is Valerie designed these t-shirts that are...
I want one.
Yes, we will get you one. That are the mirror. I said, wouldn't it be great if Feste wore a Stop Asian Hate t-shirt? And she said, I feel like that's negative. And so she came up with the reverse of that, which is, Start Asian Love. So there's Stop Asian Hate as the mirror below it, but Start Asian Love. And what I love is that Jojo, who plays Feste, is wearing this t-shirt on stage in front of all of these people. And those close enough to be near him will read it, and those that are not.
No, it was very effective when I saw it.
Is gratitude. I've been part of many TCG programs that have tried to move my career forward as a leader. I've interviewed for a lot of different jobs, similar jobs to the one I currently have, and it was not the right fit for one reason or another. And after you've faced rejection a whole lot, that certainly hurts a lot. And then the pandemic happened, and I lost my mother. And
I'm so sorry.
It's okay, but that was a moment. Certainly, like when you become an adult, after my father passed away a couple of years ago. So
you're an orphan.
Yeah, when you become an orphan, it's a moment.
Different place.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be.
Absolutely, and so, it's very exciting to make my Kansas City Rep debut. It's a real honor to be able to bring Jason, who we've worked together for so long, and I've been able to pay peanuts for super long, to be able to give him a real salary and a real place to stay, and and for Jojo to be able to you know, I mean, I don't even remember what we paid him when we did it back in 2011, but I'm pretty sure it's half of what he makes in a week here.
Plus a guitar and
right.
Paldon
restoration. We did do a lot of things. There might have been some bribery involved in getting Jojo out of here. But I'm just so thankful that this was the job for me. I think working for Stuart, who shares my value as a service-oriented person, and that they thought that this was going to be a good idea. And so we get to go back to Illyria with a whole new group of people, as well as some of our old favorites. And I'm honored to have you here. I think you are such a huge part of chronicling our history in this art form in this country.
Thank you.
So it feels like that sort of legitimizes what we're doing. Like there are definitely at least a few times during rehearsal where I turn to Rainey or my associate, or I turn to Jason. I'm like, I get paid to do this. It's
Is
crazy.
this really happening?
Is this really happening? They're actually paying us to do this. This is my job.
Yeah.
You're here, so that's pretty cool. And that sense of wonder has been absent for a while.
Lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Lovely.
It's an honor to have you, friend.
Yay! What is your history with Twelfth Night?
Well, I have a long history with Twelfth Night. It was my thesis paper in grad school.
Seriously?
Seriously,
Crazy.
it was. On the use of music in Shakespeare's canon. It was also my final play at grad school, where I played Feste and wrote the music for it.
Oh my!
Yes. Then I believe, I've written music for 3 productions and also performed in one.
Okay.
After school.
Okay.
So I've done a number of 12 nights.
That's crazy. Now, you do actually have a particular history with the director of this play, Nelson.
So I believe 3 of my 12 nights were with Nelson.
Wow.
Including this one.
Okay.
So the Leviathan Lab, 12th Night, set in
The one that I saw in
the one that
2011.
you saw in 2011.
Brilliant.
Set in 1950s Hong Kong, a Wong Kar-wai inspired production with an all-Asian cast.
That was beautiful.
It was awesome.
Really beautiful.
It was so good. And then we did a school tour at the Old Globe, for the Old Globe, set in 1960s Cuba. And then this one.
The Magical 2022.
This is a Multiverse 2022.
Multiverse.
Yes, this is...
Interesting. That, I think, is the first time the phrase has been used. I haven't seen that in any of the... Was that how it was explained to you?
It's quite often the way I make sense of realities, of the theater realities, the worlds that we create in plays, especially in Shakespeare.
Okay.
And this one is very interesting. Illyria is this fantasia, this fantasy of, I guess you could call it a multicultural fantasia, where races and cultures and different people are living in the same world without friction being caused by those differences. They're instead integrated together and harmonious, and all the disharmony and friction comes from the human experience, the lives that they live, not from the differences in their cultures and races. It's the embodiment of the American melting pot ideal, which always appealed to me, especially as a child. Life is more complicated than that, and probably a little less pleasant than that. But this production finds a way to embody sort of that harmony of cultures and how they can beautifully mix together and coexist without having to bump up and dominate.
Okay. Well, what were you inspired by in composing the music for this show?
Well, our director, Nelson, after quite a bit of brainstorming with his friends, came up with this really interesting concept. We based all the design and creative and music decisions on the cultural identities and ethnic identities and races of our cast. So we created a world around the identities of the actors in Twelfth Night.
That's a lot of work. But I saw it all on the stage and I was very impressed.
Yeah, it's been amazing. It's such a wonderful creative challenge. You know, I think of all the 12 nights that I've done, all the ones I mentioned, the one I did in school, which is 1920s Newport, Rhode Island. And for designers and writers and composers who are collaborating in these pieces, you immediately have a box that you can fit all your work into.
Right.
And in this one, no box, just a whole bunch of humanity and lived experiences. I mean, we didn't just say, oh, Vanessa Severo is Brazilian, so we're just going to do my idea of Brazil. I talked to Vanessa quite extensively about her life as a Brazilian, the music that she liked and loved, her meaningful experiences, the sounds and the smells and the life of Brazil in her time. And so that becomes the palette off of which you, it's That's such a big question because on the one hand, it's exhilarating right now because things are changing for us slowly, but at least the conversations have started. Things that we never talked about, let's say 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, are being discussed over and over again by the theater community at large. So that's exciting. Nelson is the Associate Artistic Director at a major, well-funded regional theater, and that's so exciting to me. And people are listening, and we are having conversations, and we're starting to get our own work as writers out into the world.
Well, certainly you had your world premiere of Gold Mountain at the Utah Shakespeare Festival.
Yeah, that just happened last year. And that is definitely a symbol of where we've been working to get to as an industry. On the other hand, we have this sort of rise of Asian hate in the world right now, and it doesn't seem to be going away. It continues. It continues with violence, with racism, with just open hatred. And we have to create with that in mind. It never leaves us. And I think it does color the decisions we make, the creative decisions we make, because it's become a part of who we are, this awareness that there are people who see us as less than, who have flattened out our humanity into these stereotypes and tropes. And I think a lot of what we do as creators is we try to push back against this and try to inflate ourselves back into 3 dimensions whenever we get a chance to portray ourselves in any media. So I think that's the push and pull of being Asian right now in the theater.
I'm Jojo Gonzalez, and I'm playing Feste in Twelfth Night at KCRep. Nelson calls me, emails me, how would you like to reprieve Feste? And he mentioned Eileen's doing it, and Jason Ma's doing the music, and I'm like, why you have to dangle that beautiful carrot right there? And I was like all in before we did anything, and there was a reading, and so we did the reading, and it was so amazing to revisit what we had done, because I was playing kind of, there was a Zoom reading, but to revisit what we had done 11 years ago, and how a lot of it I how a lot of it I can still remember, like we just did it yesterday, and it felt like home, and that's half the battle for me, is the vision that he had for this play had a lot to do with casting it and creating the characters with the people in the room, whatever ethnicity you are, wherever your life history is, and building it from there. And that was for me, like nobody does this.
Right.
Nobody does it like this, where you cast a show and then you build the show based on who's in the room and how welcome it is.
Now I see you have a very special friend.
This friend of mine, this is a paldon, and this is a paldon that I used in the production of Nicky Malaga by Chris Miliato with my theater in 2000. Yeah, in 2000. And I was tasked to play it, and I had never played this instrument, and it was a very difficult. It's a very difficult instrument to play. So I practice. You practice, and then I couldn't get a sound out of it. And I was in the subway, and I was holding it, and I just took a breath and like, please make some music. Help me make some music. And I breathed into it, and I wasn't even going into that, just actually going into the flute, but I just breathed into it, and it made the sound. And it was almost like it chose that moment to let me hear its voice. And from that day on, after the performance, I said, may I borrow it? Because I want to learn how to use it. And I used it in many, not many productions, but in a lot of classes that I teach. I used it as background to let kids. I teach kindergarten to second grade, so I've used it as a soundscape. But of course, that was over 10 years ago, and it was already in bad shape because of its age and the weather that we have here. It's not the same as the Philippines, obviously. So it has a lot of cracks. And I repaired it, taped on it, and I told Jason, so I have this flute. It's a beautiful flute. It has this very distinct sound. And we played with it for a little bit, and he said, just bring it. So I brought it here, and Casey, they said, maybe we can fix it. So before now, it had rope, a piece of rope up here, a piece of gaff tape over here.
Oh my gosh.
Like packing tape all the way down this underside of it, and all the way to the front, because it was all so badly packed. So they consulted an instrument maker, a musician, incredible human. And because of because of my history with the flute, I'm reluctant to just like to have somebody fix it.
Or have somebody else touch it.
Or touch it, because
Right.
it's
Such a delicate object.
I feel like it's a sacred thing. Like it allowed me to make music, and so I met Amado Espinosa, who's this incredible musical genius who makes music with he's familiar with the voice of instruments, and we started chatting. And we started talking about the similarities of the sound with the shakuhachi and this Bolivian flute. Yesterday, we went away for 2 days. We got it yesterday. And picked it up, and the same experience of just breathing into it, and the sound was there. The sound that it originally had the first time I played.
Can you
was
read a
there.
little?
What's that?
Can you read a little?
So some of that music, initially Jason said that, well, let's just play some of those notes and then we'll build music around it. And it became an integral part of the soundscape
Right.
of the show. And we had like very loose plans of including it. And it just feels like this whole experience has been, it's like a resurrection.
You feel
I
revived?
feel revived, not just as an actor, but as a human being, because
The last
of
3
the
years.
last 3 years of what we've all gone through, and still basically going through right now. And Nelson and Jason have crafted this beautiful rendition of Twelfth Night that truly is remarkable. It feels like I feel this presence in the costume, in the people, in the other actors in the cast, and it's an act of love,
Yes.
really. KCRep.
KCRep has 12th Night up until September 25th. You all have to come see it.
Come see it. It's magical.